The I-Team began looking into a question of safety early this year when we learned that Illinois Secretary of State officials had in writing a proposed plan to chop the number of required training hours in half for many commercial driver's license students. It was especially puzzling because since the early 1990s, Illinois had one of the most stringent training requirements and among the lowest truck accident rates.
We move on to the engine.
With supply chain issues snarling the American economy, the demand for commercial truck drivers is at an all-time high.
There's a lot of information you have to know before you even move this vehicle.
160 Driving Academy, based in suburban Chicago with schools across the country, has a range of eager students, some with master's degrees, coming in for professional training, looking for a more lucrative career.
We have to be responsible for not only ourselves, but for the general public. In
January, with little notice, the Illinois Secretary of State's office wrote a rule change that would reduce by 50% the training required for new truck drivers from 160 hours to 80 hours. The proposed regulation could have left more than a third of all newly licensed Illinois truckers with far less training than now required.
We got a letter.
Was it to you?
It was to all the commercial truck driving schools in the state of Illinois.
And when you looked at that, what was your thought?
I think we all shook our head and wondered what is going on. Why would the state want to do that?
CEO Steve Gould claiming most companies don't want to hire new drivers with anything less than a guaranteed 160 hours of instruction. Driving schools maintaining more teaching time produces safer drivers.
I don't think cutting the number of hours are going to achieve anything but putting the general public at risk and putting us all at risk.
Illinois ranks among the lowest states for truck and bus highway fatalities in the nation. 33rd lowest state for heavy-duty truck and bus fatalities. And that's according to the U.S. Department of Transportation. And that's an incredible record.
Estimates from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration showing fatalities involving large trucks were down in 2020, despite an overall increase in traffic deaths nationwide.
With the federal government not having any minimal hours at all, but a lot of states around us didn't have any hours at all either. So we looked at it. That's why we kind of kicked it around to maybe see if we wanted to lower it or not. We weren't really for sure. We had some that were obviously for it, some that were against it.
Kevin Dusterhouse is the longtime manager of the state's CDL division. The proposed rule would also cut the bus driver training requirement from 160 to 40 hours.
And with the trucker shortage right now, we have a school bus driver shortage, not only in Illinois, everywhere. So I think everything's on the table. You always want to look at things. You always want to grow.
The I-Team contacted the Secretary of State's office about the submitted change that could threaten to unravel reforms Secretary of State Jesse White instituted decades ago, following this fiery crash that killed 6 children in 1994 and exposed a network of bribes for licenses uncovered by the I-Team that ended up landing White's predecessor, Governor George Ryan, in federal prison. After we contacted White's office, we were told the reduced CDL training plan was being withdrawn.
We had our own data, and we decided, you know what, we wanted to stay with the stringent laws of 160 hours. It's worked all this time, and that's why we stuck with it.
Now the question of safety is, when Jesse White retires this year and a new Secretary of State is elected, will the cut-down CDL training plan resurface? Would you anticipate that at some point this is going to happen?
I really can't guess what's going to go on, with the next administration or 2 or 3 years down the road. I really just don't know. No.
What would your recommendation be for any government official who's thinking about cutting hours for truck drivers?
Don't do it. Do not lower the standard. The standards were put in place for a reason.
Setting off the state's own review is new federal oversight that went into effect a month ago. For the first time across the country, all entry-level CDL drivers must meet the same standards. But that rule imposes no set requirements for behind-the-wheel training. States that certify driving programs have the option to set their own driving hours.